Well, good evening and welcome to the Go TAFE Golden Valley Real Deal Football Show. This evening, some big news about to be released right across the needier regions of Victoria in relation to metropolitan and country football. To give us an update straight away, first with the news, Mr. Martin Gleeson. Martin, of course, is the General Manager of the AFL Goulburn Murray region. Martin, how are you, mate?
Very well, thanks, Foxy. Thanks for having me in.
Now, I'm going to let you explain it all to the people that watch the show. It is particularly big news, so without any further ado, so that you've got time to just pinpoint out, it's all about controlling what's happening in country football with excessive match payments. We're trying to keep competitions viable. We're trying to cut costing down and have a listen to it and gauge it for yourself. I think it's got some merit, some of the ideas that you're about to hear about.
Thanks, Foxy. Certainly it's been a big talking point and has been a big focus for the last probably 18 months to 2 years. Over the last 12 months, a working party's been put together to look into club sustainability, particularly around point systems and also salary caps. And we're now at the pointy end of those discussions. So over the last couple of days, and certainly over the next few weeks, will be a whole range of information being distributed to clubs around the proposed point system and how that's going to work, and also around the proposed salary cap. To step through a little bit of stuff, the point system is probably the easiest to understand. Points systems have been in place in a number of leagues across Metro Victoria and also in Country Victoria at the moment, and that essentially identifies the points a player is allocated based on their playing history over the last 3 years. So, for example, an ex-AFL player is worth a lot more points than somebody who's only played at their community club for their entire career. So it's a sliding scale from 6 points to 1. Everyone carries a point, nobody comes for free. And then over the next few months will be an opportunity for clubs to sit down with their playing list, do a bit of work on where their points are at, and provide that information back to the league, which then will allow the league to make some decisions around what a suitable points cap would be.
Martin, I'll play devil's advocate here. I'm president of your old football club. We've got 3 boys who have just been delisted by Richmond Football Club, and they've also been told that they're no longer available for their VFA organisation as well.
Yep.
So, but they started playing their junior football with the Euro Football Club. One boy didn't. We got him from another place. He's from the eastern suburbs. Tell us about our boys. What sort of points they be looking at?
Any AFL player coming out of the AFL system carries the maximum points, which is 6. A player who is returning to his home club comes back carrying 1 point. So obviously the focus is around junior development, is around producing players from within and not necessarily taking players from other leagues.
So that step one there, you're saying to young fellas out there, you're giving them an inducement to go back to their home club. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yes.
And on the flip side of that, making the club that's involved a priority to get one of those higher listed players at a much cheaper rate.
If they can, yes, of course, because then you want, a Jamie Elliott, you want him to go back and play your role when his AFL playing days are over. So the encouragement is around that. It also rewards loyalty. So another factor of the point system is that each year you drop a point. So that AFL player that you might recruit comes in at 6 points. If he stays with you next year, he carries 5 points at your club. However, if he bounces on to another club, he goes back to being worth 6 points. So there's also a loyalty clause in there as well.
Now, for people that might be thinking, well, how do you know who's got points and how you don't know who's got points? The format would be fairly basic on your team sheet that you submit on that day.
Yes, yep.
It would indicate how many points each player is worth,
yep.
And at the end of that tally, if you overshoot that margin, you've got to have a reallocate your list there.
Absolutely. The point system in a database perspective or a back end perspective is actually already functional because it is working in some leagues. It's just a matter of turning that on, and it is all done through Footy Web. So as a coach or your administrator would go in and select your players, their points come with them, and then that would tally up on that page. So administratively, it's relatively simple. The difficulty, obviously, in setting it up is identifying how many points each particular individual is worth at the start.
A benefit for both leagues, like say for a situation, the Goulburn Valley League, the Ovens and Murray are a neighbour to us. The O&M are a neighbour to us. Now, say Jamie Elliott did come back to us and he wants to go to Albury.
Yep.
Right, now he's got to go to Albury at a 6-pointer, doesn't he?
Yes.
But if your old football club turn around and they say, we want Jamie, they get him back for 1 point.
If he's played, so the home, to be classed as a home player, you need to have played 40 games within the club. Okay, now that is up to under the age of 17.
Yep.
So under 18 players are considered, in this system, are considered to be seniors in the context of points, because obviously at under 18 there's a lot of recruiting going on from club to club, and so that's the framework overall, but there's also opportunities to do things on a regional level. So for example, the KDL doesn't have under 16s and under 14s, so any player coming into the KDL is coming from another club. So therefore there's allowances that can be made and put into the system for that to occur. So there is regional variances that can be put in place.
And competitions carry different rankings as well, don't they?
Yes, they do, yeah. There's 12 premium community leagues.
Yep.
So the Golden Valley Football League and the Murray Football League are both premium community football leagues. So if players from those leagues go and play, say, in the Picola League or in the KDL, they carry more points than if they were to go and play at another GVFL or another club at the same level.
The name change there, you'd be thinking, what's a premium league? Once upon a time, we used to be recognised as what they'd call Major League Country Football. Now the new terminology is Premium League, and that's how you work to that theory.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And probably one other consideration in that is that there's also allowances made for players that switch clubs within the same league. So, for example, if a player went from Shep United to Marupna, he would carry an extra point because he's moving within the league. But if he moves from Shep United to Albury or to an Ovens and Murray side, he would carry, there's not an allowance point added on top of that as well. So it's to, if you like, to discourage clubs from recruiting within their own league and players just bouncing around from club to club.
And whilst it does seem fairly, detailed and involved, I can tell you, once you have a look at it set up in front of you, it's very easy to formulate. It's very hard to do it here verbally to you, but if you formulate it and you have it down there in pieces of paper where you can work to it, it becomes very, very easy and probably not a bad idea.
And there is actually a flow chart that it will be provided to all clubs, and that information was released yesterday, and that actually steps through, is this player a home player, then what are their points, have they played AFL football, so it actually helps club volunteers to identify how that works. And importantly, once it's set up, this is only applicable to players that are coming into your club. You don't have to do this every year. So it's only applicable to players coming into the club. So naturally, setting something up for the first time requires a little bit more work, but overall, the ongoing administration is not that onerous.
All right, mate, we've covered that, I think. Do you want to get on to salary caps? We talked a little bit about the salary cap.
Salary caps are always contentious.
Yep.
There's always lots of discussion around who gets paid and how much they get paid and what clubs spend. Point systems across the state have identified certain successes around equalisation and player loyalties, etc., but it hasn't necessarily in all cases reduced player spending. And clearly a key mandate from clubs was that player spending needed to be controlled somehow. So this system of points will also be complemented with a salary cap process.
I think the point system's an absolute beauty. I must tell you, I've got grave concerns on how they can police the salary cap. Give me one way that you think they may be able to do it.
There's the first is to be able to identify actually what the salary cap level needs to be. So there's a process that's been communicated to clubs as to how that'll be worked out over the next couple of months. The other part is all players under contract will be required to lodge their contract through a central portal. There'll be a standard statewide contract. There'll also be statutory declarations which are included with that contract around where that player payment stuff is. There's a bit of education around providing employment for players. How can you do that and what are the rules around that? There's also discussion about integrity officers, which will be some funding provided to help do some auditing or to be able to manage the integrity of what clubs do. It's an interesting one, and whatever system's in place, there's always ways for people to try and find a way around it. But the underlying principle in all of this, and this is the message coming from clubs, that if they don't do something, then clubs will be going to the wall and they're not sustainable. So I think it's in everyone's interest to try and make sure that something put in place is actually functional and it is able to work.
No doubt about it. I'll tell you what I'm going to do with you, Martin, because it's so involved and so detailed. I'd like to get you back in about 5 weeks when this is. It'll certainly take that long to go out to the clubs now, and then you'll have more of an idea on how clubs and competitions, more importantly, have responded to it, and what sort of proposal have been put forward to you, if any, from the GV.
Yep, absolutely. It's certainly there's a big consultation period going on now, and the intention is that something will be in place for 2016 season.
Good on you, mate. Well, you heard it here first on the GV Footy Show. As I said, we will definitely have Martin. If not Martin, we'll have Simon in Martin's absence, but it's a topic that you'll hear more and more about right throughout the year. Right now, I thank you for coming in, Martin. I really do appreciate it. You've been wonderful. And we'll say goodbye to Martin, but we're going to jump in the car. I'm driving to Echuca right now, and I'm going to talk to a young man called Ben Reid. Well, tonight, the GV Footy Show, we're up here in Echuca. It's a land of the Murray Bombers. And with me, a player you haven't heard so much about yet, but believe me, this boy can play the game. I'm with Ben Reid. Welcome to the show, Ben.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Ben, you've been, you were born and raised in Echuca, is that correct?
No, I moved here when I was 16. I was born and raised in Queensland and grew up on the Sunshine Coast.
Okay, mate, so you'll be used to the Echuca climate. I reckon the Echuca climate's a little bit warmer from where we are down the road.
Yeah, it's very nice here. Summer's really hot, so pre-season training's good, get a good fitness base, and start of the year, I haven't played many games at the start of the year, but it's good weather, and yeah.
Now, this time last year, you'd started off you came from Glenelg Football Club in the South Australian Football League. You got yourself going here. You played 3 senior games. You've had a bit of shoulder trouble. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, unfortunately, I had 2 reconstructions when I was in Adelaide, one on each shoulder, and came back to Echuca and had a really, really good pre-season. Started off the year in some pretty good form, and unfortunately, round 3, I went down with a shoulder and had to have it redone. And yeah, hopefully back this week and get out and done the right thing, so I should be right to go.
Now, Ben, what do you do for Cross, mate, and what sort of an impact has it had on your employment and one thing and another?
Yeah, I'm a apprentice carpenter, and had to have about 3 months off for each shoulder I've had, so that puts a bit of a kick in the bank account, but unfortunately that's what happens, and you love the game of footy, so you just keep going, and don't let injuries hold you back.
Now, your footballing journey, mate, you said you came from Queensland. You came to Victoria. Then with footy, what happened with you then? You play a bit of rep footy?
Yeah, I did. I played for New South Wales in the Nationals, and from there I went to the draft camp. Unfortunately, didn't get picked up. I got offered a contract at GWS in their first year before the AFL. Played a couple of NAB Cup games for them, and played the rest of the year there under Kevin Sheedy and Mark Williams. And that was really good for me footy. Unfortunately, I didn't get another opportunity after that, so I went over to Adelaide and played 2 years there, and got struck down with a couple of injuries, and I played 7 or 8 league games in my first year, and yeah, after that I wasn't much good with my shoulders, so I came back here.
Now, Ben, my impressions of the South Australian Football League, I reckon it's terrific football to watch. They seem to be more attacking there. They don't seem to turn the ball around and go backwards so often in South Australia. Would that be fair or not?
Yeah, it certainly is. They've got a couple of really, really big grounds and a couple of really, really small grounds, so get out on the open space and on a couple of the grounds over there, and it's really, really fast flowing, and blokes are super fit over there. If you don't do everything right in the pre-season, then you're behind the 8 ball from the get-go. So if you do everything right over there, and there's a lot of big bodies, so it's bash and crash on the inside, but when it's on the outside, it's really quick and really free-flowing with the skills.
Now, you've got the forward line coach role here. You look after the boys in the forward line. Tell us a bit about that role.
Yeah, I do. Fortunately enough, Briggsy, the senior coach, offered me at the end of last year, and sort of through last year I didn't play much footy, so I took on a bit of a role, and this year it's taken over through the first sort of 3 or 4 games of the year. It's going well. I'm learning heaps off from Briggsy and a couple of other people outside the club, and the boys are just trying to earn their respect and just say the right things and do the right things at training, and it's working well.
Now, the amazing thing that I've found, I mean, we get around to a few clubs during the year, I reckon you always pick training by the attitude on the track. The attitude's fantastic. I was talking to Brett Stevens, the president, a little bit earlier. He reckons as many as 7 or 8 under-18 boys could miss out this week. Yeah,
that's right. The 18s are just got a lot of numbers, like 40 odd numbers, and every second week the 18s and the senior group train together, and there's 70 blokes out here training. So we're just trying to implement our game plan through from the under-18. So when those younger blokes come up, they already know what's expected of them, and it's working really well. So for the under-18s to miss out is unfortunate, but it makes the environment very competitive. And the senior blokes, we're picking from 30 every week, so our depth going down into the twos is very strong. They haven't lost a game, so senior boys have got to pick it up. Otherwise, they'll be back in the twos.
All right, mate. Well, there you are. That's Ben Reid. Don't forget him. I'll tell you what, his playing record suggests he can play. We saw him late last year. He can really play the game. Look forward to watching you right throughout the year, mate, and thanks for your time on the GV Footy Show.
Thanks very much for having me. Cheers.
Good on you, mate. Well, there you go. What a nice young man he is, young Ben Reid, who is a name you're going to have to get familiar with. He's going to be a good player in this competition for a long time. But it's time now for the real deal. And first off, let me welcome Guy Morfitt. Guy, how are you, mate?
David, hello. How are you?
Good, thanks. And we'll talk a little bit more. Plenty in the mailbag for us this week.
Yeah, it's a couple good letters this week. And how are you, JR?
I'm a good
Sorry
guy.
to leave you.
No worries. He just lets me hang.
No, I was just about to do that, and I was about to say, I had a beautiful dream last night. I dreamt only you and I turned up. It was wonderful. And it had a real happy ending. The dream.
Happy ending.
All right, so we've got more mailbag coming up.
Was that the happy ending when you woke up or what?
Now let's concentrate on the job at hand. Last weekend, well, a couple of upsets as our cameraman giggles away to my right. Rochi, too good for Euroa. Great game of football. I understand the crowd had an enormous time watching this game where Rochester won by 15 points in a great game of footy. Mansfield, well, they certainly surprised me. I thought travelling to Deakin might worry them a little bit, but they got over the top of Shep by 35. I was at Kyabram and Benalla, and it was a 19-point win to Kyabram, and probably the scoreboard is a little bit flattering there to the way Benalla performed from about halfway through the third quarter onwards. Marupna, well, again, John, I don't think many would have picked that Marupna would win by 44 points over Seymour at Seymour. That's a great win, and the Cats are travelling beautifully. It was the Swans by 39 points over Echuca, and United on the winners list had a 50-point win over Tat. Sees our ladder like this: Rochi on top on 20 points, then Marupna and Kyabram on 16. Benalla, Euroa and the Swans make up the 6 on 12 points. Just outside the 6 is United, Seymour, Mansfield and Echuca, all on 8 points, and Shepparton and Tatura yet to trouble the point makers. On the goal kicking list, we see the big Harry Madden staying in front. He's on 26 goals, kicked 7 on the weekend. Billy Burston, well, Burston is the appropriate surname for this young man. He's burst onto the scene the last couple of weeks. He kicked another 7, takes him on to 24. Josh Mellington kicked 3 to 17. Stephen Strubant went to 17, and the big fellow from Marubna, Brent Aho, on 15 goals. For those of you in the district that are following football this week, the broadcast game on 1FM will be Marupna versus Euroa.
Foxy, what a great year, and Guy, what a great year. We've got 10 sides going for 6 spots. Like Echuca this week are playing for a spot in the 6.
I was just about to say that when the ladder was read out, how much the league has actually tightened up. I reckon from the top sides to the lower sides in years gone by. It's good for footy. It's
fantastic.
There's been some interesting results the last few weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, before we get into the footy, Johnny, we'll get a few of our tasks out of the way. We've had Martin in, we've spoken to young Ben Reid, and we've indicated the ladders. Guy, let's get in and come up with what you've got in your mailbag.
The mailbag, Foxy. Righto, we'll get straight into it for the viewers. Hi, Morph. I witnessed a very disappointing incident at Seymour on Anzac Day when a Seymour player deliberately elbowed a Yarrowah player in the head. What was even more disappointing was the fact that no report was made. Boys, could you please tell me, apart from the 2 field umpires, can the boundary, goal or emergency umpire make a report? If you do not think they should be able to. Okay, so I can tell you now for the viewers out there, it is a little bit of a sensitive subject, so I've actually had clarity from the Goulburn Valley Umpires Association, and it goes like this. Any GV umpire officiating can make a report. Yep. So whether it's a field, boundary or goal umpire, correct, anyone who is a Goulburn Valley registered umpire can make a report. Full stop. If a club believes a report is missed, they then have 5 days to lodge an investigation yep, into the incident. And that's all I'm probably going to comment on that.
Yeah, well, and obviously the situation, I was at the game, and I've got to say that I was sitting on the press box. I didn't see the incident, and obviously the umpires didn't see it, because any of those incidents, I reckon, over the years, Foxy, umpires have always reported it. And you're right, every umpire can report. There's no problems there. I would just say it has been missed I think it was in a pack, and as I said, I was sitting up in the broadcasting box and I did not see it. I looked down for a split second and missed it.
I really do think, look, we do appreciate the mum, make no mistake about that, but from where we sit in a media perspective, we're not entitled to give an opinion. We can certainly walk away and have a discussion amongst ourselves. I don't think that's unwarranted, but to come here and utilise this format to say, did you see what such and such did to such and such?
Yeah.
That's not what we're about. But
the letter's good, and
it is.
what the lady's saying is right. But I'd just say the umpires completely missed it because we don't want that in our game. There's no doubt about
Well,
that.
I think the letter's fair. It's
I think so,
it's
yeah.
just
that's
asking
what I'm
for some clarity.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
but all umpires can report.
Yep. Moving on to the next, the mail. Hi, Morph. A couple of questions for the segment, mate. Who do you think is the most effective forward in the competition at the moment? And also, which forward has the ability to turn the game on its head? I'll answer this very quickly. For mine at the moment, I would say at the moment Billy Burston from Cobram. He's kicked 15 goals in the last 2 weeks, 8 and 7. Came into the league probably a little bit unannounced and no one knew anything about him. So for mine, answering that question, I would have to say Billy Burston from Cobram.
Yeah, I've got two. I'd go Harry Madden. I think Harry, I love the way he plays the game. He's just his swoop and skirt. He's like a seagull that swoops on a chip. You know, when the ball hits the ground, big man, he does it really good. And Shane McDonald, when he comes off the ball, he pushes forward, and I think he has a real impact.
I think he's the other format. For me, it's Madden and Sard. Sard had a bad day last weekend, and I think probably through my playing career, John, I might have had one, possibly 2 bad days. And
Is that when you got to the game?
yeah, that's exactly right. But Sard, when he is hot, when Sard's hot, mate, there's none better than
And now
watch.
the bloke has turned dangerous too. Is Struben. He's just starting to get his hands on
But
the ball.
that probably alleviates into the second question.
Good question. And the second part of that letter was, how would you guys rate the umpiring standard so far this year in the games that you were seeing? Well, again, it's a little bit of probably a contentious issue. What I would say, the umpiring's fantastic, I reckon. One thing I will say to people, if there's anybody, I've been involved in footy for long enough now to know. And I would say in my younger era, I was probably gave them a little bit of heat as well. But what you learn as you get older is that umpiring's not the easiest job. So if you want to pot them, go and have a go yourself and see how good you go at it.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. I think they've done a terrific job. And just on that, we must congratulate Wayne Hamilton last week in breaking the league record.
What a fantastic... He knocked off one of our great mates too. Chrissy McCullum had the record.
Yeah.
I understand Chrissy McCullum's got a photo to the show dancing like
but
this.
they tell me he's only about 8 or 9 games off 800 all over.
Is he really?
Now that's a magnificent effort. But to you, Wayne, congratulations. It's a wonderful effort.
But getting back
and
the
to the
umpires.
umpires out there, if you've got any email like this, send it in to Foxy and we'll put it on here for you.
Morse Mailbag. What's your address on Morse Mailbag?
Thanks, Todd Stone, for that too. Foxy's big mate Toddy, and
Lives in Sydney.
Any letters you want to send in, morsemailbag@gmail.com. Thank you very much, Foxy.
And just to finish that, I've had a couple of questions this week on the top 50. It will be out next Wednesday.
Haven't had a question about it. Everyone said the top what?
It's our top 50, and it'll be in the Shepparton News Friday week.
You start your own segment now.
So there's
Top
top 50.
JR's
Johnny's top
Mailbag.
50.
Is it all the
Now, top 50.
I knew him when he had nothing.
Are we going to hit the Cheerios? or
Okay,
what?
we're going to do Cheerios. Now, first off, I've got to send a Cheerio, and he's a great little mate of mine. He always says go to me at the footy, and always he's been a supporter of the Real Deal Footy show since its infancy, John.
Yep.
And his lovely mum is, of course, Chris, and I came out on the Benalla Mail on Facebook to let me know how young...
James Dalton.
Can I get it out, John? James Dalton.
We're waiting for you to get it out. You weren't getting it out.
James Dalton did one of the bravest things on a football field you'd ever see for a long time, and consequently got a very nasty injury. Severe gash to one side of his face, and he also, I think, is going cheekbone, and there's some sort of little bones in here in the old schnozola. I've only got a very little one myself, and I know I can tell you. But to you, James, mate, we hope you get well, and I know it would have been tough for your mum, Chris, and your whole family, but gee, what an act of courage it was, and we couldn't let the moment go, mate. We're just showing what a cute young fella you were here. You have a look at young James Dalton here. There he is as a would-be copper, and have a look at him there. There he is in his Collingwood jumper. Don't he look lovely in his Collingwood jumper? And here he is sitting on Poppy's knee now. Poppy's name's Pat. John, he played at Collingwood and he coached Shep United. So he's got football in his bloodline. But we did manage to get a photo of James after the injury on the Sunday morning, and we just put him up here. And as you can see, he took a couple to the head. So we're hoping, James, and everyone that follows the Footy Show, that you get real well crushed and sooner than better and get up there and playing, because I can tell you right now, mate, you were playing fantastic footy.
Just on that, Foxy, sorry to interrupt there, but we see in the league and everyone else talking about head injuries and how we're trying to limit it in the game. Looking at something like that, and I didn't see it, but I was told how courageous and tough it was.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't want to see a bloke like plenty differently, because that's how he bases his
Oh, yeah.
No, he won't.
No, the courage was just
I
unbelievable.
spoke to Blue today, and she's very proud of her boy. And Blue. Yeah, she's a redhead like yours truly, and that's what her name is. From
I reckon she'd be a fair bit better looking than this one.
I think you're right. But anyway, moving along.
Okay.
On Saturday, I had the privilege of being in the Kyburn press box. Met two really nice young fellas here. You'll see them here. The unique thing about this, they're both recognised senior footballers, Aidan Gemmell and Joey Rotundo, but they were taking stats on opposition players and their own players as well. And I can tell you, they are two quality blokes, Johnny.
Yeah,
and believe me,
and good players.
they, with the inclusions of Ronaldo coming their way,
Yeah.
a boy called Reardon,
Maybe reading.
and with these two as well, Gemmell can really play. Joe I haven't seen enough of, but a really nice pair of young men. Thanks for coming up and saying it. I really enjoyed your company.
And mine, Foxy, got the boys in Queensland. Chris Ryan, Billy Hicks, Jaden Young, Jai Warren, Tommy Thorson, and of course Steve Daniel, the Big Stevie, coach of Labrador. They're all playing with Labrador now, and they watch the show every week. So they said, what about sending the Cheerio up? So there's the Cheerio to the boys up there at Labrador.
That Labrador's a footy club.
It's a Labrador. It's not a dog. It's a footy club.
A very
lot of
good
liquors.
football club too.
Yeah, actually, that's why I left Stevie Daniels won't go anywhere for less than $3,000 a week.
Oh, yeah, geez. Yeah.
I'm telling you, he has to for the pies.
And
Oh, yeah, doesn't want to sip of the laughing water.
yeah. Good
Only
news.
joking, Steve. JR said that, not me, mate.
And just some sad news for the week. We've lost 4 already for the Innerleigh side, so that's makes things a little bit difficult. But anyway,
We'll soldier on.
We'll soldier on.
Okay, now, you've done with your Cheerios, you're done with your Cheerios.
I haven't actually done my Cheerios
Well,
yet,
I didn't think you had. No, I didn't think you had. That's why I wasn't going to rush you, guy. I know what you're about. So anyway, go right ahead.
A couple quick ones. I know we're on a tight schedule, not by the sound of things, JR. But Brett Zorzy had a couple beers with Brett on the weekend. Terrific fella, Brett. He knew you play at Euroa, and he's come from a wealth of experience in his footy, but a great bloke. And another bloke over there who came up to me on the Saturday night after a couple sherbets and said, "Can you give me a Cheerio morph on the Footy Show?" And that's Andrew Bell, our captain, playing really good football for Euroa at the moment. But I want to tell you one thing, boys. We talk about blokes, cricketers who are actually batting out of their crease. Well, I can tell you now, this bloke here is batting well and truly out of his crease.
Aha.
The three-wheeler, we're talking the three-wheeler?
Lovely fella and a lovely girl, I'm sure, bud. Well and truly out of his crease.
What's the out of creases name?
I don't know. That's a good question. How good am I going?
Well, you just come and lead us.
I'll tell you right
on the
now.
Footy Show out of the crease. We'll call her out of the crease.
I'm having 100 each way on Daisy. Daisy's still on me.
Oh, yeah, Daisy's all right.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Two good blokes here are. Good on you, boys.
Big Brett didn't play last week, did he? Was he
No,
out of your side?
no, he didn't.
Very important player to your own. Very important. Good on you, Brett, and hope you enjoyed it. I said last year Andrew Bell was going to have a breakout season.
He is playing the best footy he's ever played at Europe.
Yeah,
He's tough, and always
He's a chance to be in the top 50 too, Fox.
Yeah, well, what about the Zorro? Brett?
Yeah. Who?
Oh, you're putting them all. You're putting them all in there. Now, listen, we've got to get along because we're running out of time. In probably the game of the season so far, it'll be Rochester taking on Benalla. JR.
Yeah, look, an interesting. Rochi 15 points winners over Euroa last week, so I thought it was a pretty good performance from Euroa also. But Benalla, they're just down a bit, all right. They've got a few out at the moment. I don't think it's panic stations. 19 points to Kyburn, but take nothing away from Kyburn. They were very good last week. If we look at the Rochester side, Chrissy Sanders and Heath Aiken. Gee, what a year Heath Aiken's had. He's been in their best 4 times, and Dylan Cuttress has kicked 8 and Heath's kicked 6, of course. But in the midfield, Foxy, I think this is where it's going to get both sides. Ash Watson, Daniel Anderson, Dylan Williams. They're giving this kid a go in the midfield, and he's playing really, really good football. He's been in their best 3 times. Brady Green, they reckon last week, Morph against you blokes, was really good. And Stu Bent, who we spoke about before, has kicked 17 goals. He's been really good, whether he's on ball or down forward. Down back, Flaherty, well, they class him, the blokes. I haven't seen him, but I'm going to the weekend to have a look at him. They reckon he's another Mick Gaffer. Just a real negator. It just shuts blokes down and does it real. Nathan Morone, he's a kid who's having a fantastic year, Nathan Morone. James Liddell was really good for him last week. And, of course, Nick Knight. Elliot Bowen, well, didn't play last week. He was out with, he's kicked 12 goals, so he's been really good from...
He's an important player to them, JR.
I think he is. He just straightens them up a bit. On the other side, Gladstone, Jakey Paul Pratt and Lockie Smith. Lockie Smith, I thought he was pretty good last week. He had to go back on Durston, Foxy, and he got a couple on Durston, but he's had a big day, Lockie, last week. He had to play on Lukey Morris for a start, and Lukey Morris, I reckon, is a superstar of this league, and then he had to go back and try and shut, which I thought he kept him... The player at the moment I love is Sammy Martin. I just think this kid has got something special. He's been in their best 4 times. Sammy Martin and his brother James. It just stars of this league for him. They're only young players, but I am big raps on these 2 kids. Young James Martin, I think he's a kid on the wing who could be anything, can play anywhere. Lukey Morgan, I think, will come back into the side. He's been injured. Will Martinella was good. Zach Paul Pratt on the wing. Joshy Mellington played a lot on ball last week. Kicked 3. He's got 17 for the year. He's been a pretty good player. I thought he was pretty good last week. A kid that started well was Michael Exton, Foxy, at centre half forward.
Number 45.
Yeah, he showed a bit. Nicky Warnock, well, they tell me he could have a groin injury, so he could be out for a while. Nicky and James Martinella. And as we said before, a special cheerio to James Dalton. His courage last week was absolutely outstanding, it was. I've never seen anything like how a bloke went head first into a pack and he knew what was coming. It was a train that hit him. But look, this is going to be a super game, but I reckon I'm going to stay one more time with Benalla. I think they're not far off the mark. There's a few blokes that come back into this side, and I think it'll strengthen them up. Gee, but full credit to Rochester, they're going along beautifully. I think the thing about Rochester, they're very even all over the ground. There's no superstar. I mean, I know you got Watson and these blokes, but they're all at one level, but they're all playing for one another.
I had a great day at Benalla last week. I got to meet James Brooke and Sammy's father, Steve.
Yep.
Really nice bloke, very much a realist, just spoke about the boys, and I said...
Didn't know there were 3 brothers.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Gee, they're a super family.
Yeah, I think...
What's wrong with Brooke? What's his
I think Brooke's the oldest. Is he overseas? I think Brooke's the oldest, and I think then it's Sammy, and then it's James. But they all come in contrasting heights. It's an amazing thing, but I tell you one thing. One gene that they have picked up is the fact, Stephen, well done, son, is the way they go about their footy. They can really play.
You take Sam Martin, James Martin, Will Martinella, they got a float like.
Well, I tell you what,
just something there too, boys. Just to apologise to the viewers there, Mitchell. It's Exton, not Michael. JR. You need to get some names right here.
Good on you, Mitch.
On you, Mitch.
Yeah, close.
Yeah. Anyway, who's going to win it?
Oh, look, I think Benalla will, boys. I was just going to say too, everyone around, well, not everyone, but a fair few people around the league at the moment are actually, starting to question and write Benalla off. One thing what I will say is the year that Benalla had last year, going through undefeated, and we know what happened in the grand final. We don't need to cross over that, but what they achieved last year was nothing short of sensational. You can't keep doing that every year, but for 1 minute, don't write this side off at the moment.
I think it's great for the year, and I think it's great
good
for them.
Footy, but yeah, look, I'd say Benalla.
Roger, get Elliot Bowen back this week. It's going to be a huge in for them because they don't win that often at Euroa. Roger, it was a fantastic win. People underestimate that win a little bit, but I reckon in footy, I'd love to be coaching Benalla this week because I saw something that transpired. Never treat your opponent, whether you win, lose or draw, with contempt or disrespect. And I think Benalla would have got a fair bit out of last week. Kyabram were well-deserved winners, but I've spoken to Luke Morgan during the week, and I can tell you right now, I think Benalla might come out with a different sort of pizzazz about him for that reason.
When's he back, Foxy, the coach?
I reckon this
He'll play this week for sure. Yeah. Okay, Guy, you've got your boys, Euroa, take on Marupna.
Yeah, Euroa over at the Cattery over there, the Catland. Well, obviously last week it was a bit disappointing for Euroa, losing by 15 points at home. Getting straight into it, JD Hayes for mine was best on ground for Euroa, out and out. He's a really good player. He's hard. Him and his brother, they're probably a little bit deceiving in their size. Their build they're still developing their players, but boy oh boy, they are hard at the footy. And for mine, used the footy well in sticky conditions and was best on ground for me by far. We probably, who knows, we might lose him back to the VFL system, and good luck to him if he does. But for me, absolute superstar and a good kid to go with it. Big Johnny Akupu, the Ruckman boys, I reckon on the weekend he probably would have won 95% of the taps over there. And I just think one thing Euroa probably didn't do a little bit was rove to his ruck work well enough.
Just before you go on, Guy, don't interrupt you. It's going to be interesting now if this point system comes in. what points does Hayes get coming backwards and forwards?
Good question.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to find out, won't
Well,
it?
what he'll do is he'll get 4
Yeah, right.
because he'll be at home. He wouldn't have 200 games up or 200 club games up at Uriah or whatever the criteria was. It was X amount. I forget what the number was.
We'll work on that another time.
But it'd be a 4-pointer, Hazy.
Keep going, mate.
Yeah, back into it, and then obviously, Tarrant's been fantastic, and really for our structure for Uriah, he's a superstar. For mine, I reckon he's the best fullback in the competition at the moment. Andrew Bell, the captain, we spoke about that a minute ago, is having an absolutely sensational year at the moment. He's really stood up with his leadership, getting the captaincy role, and an absolute, just a really fit, hard, gut running player, moves the ball well. Nicky Snowden had another really good year at the moment as we're going through, and Craig Bamford chipped in for 3 goals on the weekend, and another good effort. Nate Trotter, a young bloke over there in the Bushy system, chipped in for 2 goals, and another good local bred boy coming through. Going over to Marubna, beat Seymour by 44 points last week, and that's a great effort to me down there at beating Seymour at their home ground. Aho for them, kicked 5 goals last week, and I think he's a good recruit from Marubna this year. Daniel Lewis, obviously, we know about him, absolute superstar and a utility that can play anywhere on the ground.
Could be a suspect this week.
Could be. I think there's a little niggling injury there, and obviously, they'll be looking hard at trying to get him in the side. Kane Boyer, boys, best on ground last week, I think, for Marubna. Just a stayer, and he's played a fair few games at Marubna there.
Morph, do you think if Gallioland goes forward, Kane Boyer will go straight to him?
I would say so. It's probably a good matchup. They're probably similar sized, and I would probably suggest it would be a good matchup to watch that.
Yep.
McDonald, they're the tough on baller, Shane McDonald, and boy, he's having a good year as well. I'm really looking forward to having a close look at him on the weekend. Johnston from Marubna and Trent Freer, another good hard nut over there. Look, it's going to be a good game of footy this week over there. Euroa last week a little bit disappointing in the third quarter. Rochi sort of got away to 4 goals, and it's going to be a tough trip over there. The interesting thing for Marubna last week, and I spoke about this the other week about their goal kicking, 12 goals, 17. So that's something I'm sure Blake Campbell would be having a look at this week. 12 goals, 17 could have been more. You take that down to 12 goals, 12 or 12 goals, 10, and that result would have been a blowout. So, it's going to be an interesting game for me this week, but I think for mine, I think Uriah will get back on the winners list, boys.
Too much goal kicking power in Marubna's side for me. I think they'll have a big win at home.
I think their midfield, as you said before, Ryan Thompson and Reece McKenzie and Pat Compton and those sort of players. And I think they're building a bit of fortress at Marubna, Foxy, and I think they'll win. I don't know why I picked against them last week because I've been a bit of a rap from this year. But anyway, I'm going Marubna.
No, you hate Marubna, and it's hard tonight. I'll tell you what, I've got a game of footy is going to be an absolute ripper, and I think I'll be going up to Echuca on the weekend, and that is when they take on Shepparton at home. Now, Echuca, believe it or not, are 1 game out of the 6. So in the challenge for the 6, and believe me, there's quite a few sides.
This is a massive game for Echuca.
My word it is, and let's not forget, Echuca beat Uriah, and everybody be saying Uriah's going to play finals footy.
Yep.
It's a real danger game for Shepparton. Quite frankly, I thought last week Shepparton might get Mansfield at home, but it wasn't to be the case. And Echuca at home, they are a different unit. Magna Bosco's a good player. Simon Buckley, I know that Simon's had a bit of an injury, but I think he'd be right. The boy we spoke to tonight, Ben Reid, very, very good player, very classy player. Needs a little bit more around him. Scotty Beattie made a pretty swift return, Johnny. They thought they were going to lose him for about 8 weeks, I believe, but Scott played last week and didn't go too badly either. They've got young Jack Sheldon, our little mate, who is a mile better looking than his brother. Oh, Jack is a real hottie. Well, he's going okay. And Kane Morris, Matty Pollock, what a year he's having, Matt. You talk about good players on the lower side getting votes in the best and fairest in the comp. Could he be the dark horse, Matt Pollock?
Tough player.
Slip across to Shep, and they've got Daniel Willis. He's kicked 13 goals for the year. I see he didn't kick a goal last week, John, but he was mentioned in their better players, so they might be using him in a different role. Nick Allen, well, if this bloke was a wine, he'd be about $1,000 a bottle because he's getting better with age, Nick. What a champion of the competition he is. Ash Holland, it's your time to stand up against son Sam Bowmaker. He's had a good year. Rupert Sangster, we hear your name every now and then, mate, then we don't hear for you for a while, but he can play, there's no doubt about that. The consistency of Rowan Hiscock, very good player. Mitchell Brett, it's going to be a good game, but me, personally, I think Echuca will get him by about 2 goals at home.
Just one thing before we move on. I'm also going for Echuca. I'm just interested in the Scotty Beattie scenario. Like we were told he had, stretch fractures of the face and eye socket and all this gone. Like it was only 4 weeks ago, yet he's back playing last week. Now, I just wonder, somewhere along the line, like, was there a medical certificate brought up to say he had these stretch fractures or the eye socket damaged, or?
Do you think it's too good playing a risk playing him, John?
Well, if he's
if you work professionally in first aid,
yeah. If he had these injuries, I don't think he'd be playing.
Either that or he's very courageous.
Well, that's right, and concerns me a bit. Like sometimes when you hear all these bad injuries, and then they say there's bad facial injuries, it can also add weeks to the player that got rubbed out that's hitting. So
you're coming at a different aspect of what I was.
Oh yeah. But I'm saying, was there medical evidence to say that he had all these injuries? Because if you come to a tribunal and they say you got all these injuries, and all of a sudden you haven't got them, and next month they're back playing.
Well, I'm telling you now, one thing I will tell you for sure: Crash at Dalton has.
Oh yeah, I know he is. But anyway, it's just food for thought.
Okay, you're the man. You heard it right from Dr. Bob. Moving right along, you've got United and Kai, John.
Sorry? You're right. United and Kyabra, Foxy.
Catch up with the program.
Yeah. Anyway, United 50-point winners last week over to Jura and Kyabra, of course. 19-point winners over Benalla. Very, very good win by the Kyabra boys. Joshy Vick, Brad Edwards, Tommy Sheldon, Jason Morgan. Jason Morgan absolutely in sensational form. Tommy Sheldon last week back to his best, Foxy. He's been down a little bit, Tommy.
Good to hear. For bloke with such a rough head, not supposed to be hard. Living in the household when your younger brother's a glamour.
Yeah, and Brad Edwards, I thought the first half was terrific. Nicky Colstock, Jordan Williams is having a really good year for him. Justin Schumer, he's got 7 goals. Liam Ogden, like to seen him last week in the midfield. He was in the midfield a bit more. This is where he plays his best footy. They've got to get him back into the midfield. Chrissy Atkins, Atkins Child. Lukey Morrison, this kid's a star. I've spoke about this kid for a few weeks. He is a star, this kid. He went to centre half forward and then he went into the ruck. He's played everywhere. Billy Durston, he had kick 4 in the second quarter, Foxy. 2 in the third and 1 in the last, and he's got 23 for the year. Sammy Sheldon's probably playing the best footy he's played since he's been at Kyabram, Sammy Sheldon. Across to United, they've been a little bit disappointing. United, you would say. Timmy Luby, I know he's on one leg, but he's got 15. Reece Healy, Justin McInerney, he's kicked 11. Paul Curry at centre half forward. He gives them a pretty good option at centre half forward, but I think the delivery to him has been pretty ordinary. Sean Hoy, Matty Rendina, Matty Bella, Billy Bingham, Shannon Campbell and Shane Neves in the middle. Foxy sort of gives them first use. But as I've said about Shane Neves, look, it gives them first use for his ruck work. I'd like to see him doing a little bit more around the ground. And down back, well, Ryan Butler, he'll probably go to Sammy Sheldon. John Barker and James Lloyd and probably get Lukey Morris. But, whoever's on Durston, I know he's got a bit of an injury, or Morris, you're in for a torrid day. But I think the Kyabram boys will go on their way.
Okay, just one quickly on what I saw last week. Jason Morgan, you are a superstar. One of the best individual games of football I've seen played in this competition for a long time. And the other fella works hard week in, week out, and just I'd hate to play on him. His arms, his legs, he tackles hard, he's brutal through any sort of contest. Brad Edwards, two of those players very critical to the Kyabram machine, and I think Kai will get United pretty easily.
Johnny, who's going to go to Billy Burston?
Billy Burston, is it Braderick? Maybe. I think he's the only option.
Is he? Oh, you boys saw him last week. What sort of height and build?
Oh, strong build. Oh yeah, strong build.
Burston,
yeah.
Oh, huge size.
Yeah. No, strong build.
All right, Kai, we're getting pushed for time. We've got to move it along. You've got who's going to win, Kai, by the way? Kai or?
Kai for me, boys.
Okay, so clean sweep on Kai. Mansfield take on the Swans up at Mansfield?
Mansfield, yeah, up in the high country. Mansfield and the Swannies. Mansfield last week, a good win for them over at Deakin Boys, winning by 35 points. Burberry was good, obviously 5 goals last week in his return, so he's given them a fair bit of firepower up there. Big Benny Fagan chipped in for 3 last week. I like the way Ben Fagan plays, a big tall target for them. And Adam Bashevsky, well, he's a class player for mine in this league. He's a bit of an old warhorse over there, but he's full of class. Jones, the ruckman. Yeah, we were talking just before, JR, about interleague and how their ruckman's going. I'm serious about this. He would be my next one if I was Travis Ryan. I would be thinking about giving a Jonesy a call up.
Oh, yeah.
He would give you 100%. So Hensby's been good for them at the moment as well, and then flick over to the Shep Swans. Beat Echuca by 39 points last week. Probably a little bit expected, and it was a good effort. Harry Madden kicked 7 for them. Interesting, averaging 5.2 goals per game this year, boys. So for a forward, 5.2 goals per game, that's a very, very good average, one would have thought. Tommy Priest, best on for them last week. Tyson Sidebottom, good to see him. Obviously in some form and playing the footy that we know he can. Absolute out-and-out superstar. Reardon was good for Swans last week, and Quade Johnston. Antonowitz, your boy Foxy, chipped in for 2 goals, and Nick Calandro had a good game as well. Just looking at the ladder, boys, and we spoke about this before, positions 7, 8, 9 and 10, and we talk about the league, how much it's tightened up, are all sitting on 8 points at the moment, and the percentage is very close. So these games for these sides, and we're talking about Echucas and Mansfields and these people, they're pushing in and they're knocking on the door for that top 6 position.
Isn't it funny, Tyson Sidebottom doing exactly the same as he did last year? Started very, very slowly. He might miss out in the top 50 again, Foxy. And then away he went. But he's just got into it last week.
I just think here too, boys, and I'm going to put something out there. I reckon there's an upset brewing here. I'm going to put something out there.
Well, we'll go you tip it.
I reckon Mansfield could roll the Swans at home.
Okay.
I'm going.
Now, I'll tell you what, you're a little bit hard on Adam Bashevsky. Adam would be 25, 26 tops, saying he's an old bloke.
Well, he's been there for a while.
You're a little bit hard.
And he's a class player.
Tommy Priest back in the grand final, best on the ground performance. Yeah. Played very well last week. Keep it up, Tommy. Quade Johnson, Mitch Bell in the ruck. I think they've got too many aces up their sleeve. VJ Squires, a pace machine on the wing. The Swans for me by about 2 goals.
Swans,
that's what I said.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, Swans. All right. Seymour and Tat. Well, can Tat have their first win of the year? I don't think so. It's going to be Seymour for me. When you say names like Hugh Robinson in fantastic form, Harrison Wheeler, very underestimated player, Harrison Wheeler. Jason Cole, well, enough's been said about young Jace. He's a great player. Tim Bongetti, injury, doubt, shadow caller, whatever you will. I still think they've got enough when you incorporate Scanlon, Meredith, Brent Colbert. It's another name you can throw up. Of course, the 2 Scopel boys, and Sard didn't kick a goal last week, and I think
struggling a bit, Sard.
Oh, that is all right. You heard it there, right there. Sard kicked in to shut him up. With Tat, well, I feel for Tat a little bit because their playing list is not to where they wanted. They lost to United by 50 points last week. I can't see a great deal of improvement. Players to take note of though: Liam Borelli, Henry Penny, Lee Warnett's an old campaigner. He's doing really, really well. Jamison Daniels doing the right thing, but also the wrong thing in playing himself while he's not 100%. The Flynns, the Martins and the Ryans all acquaint themselves very well. Billy Lovell, they need an exceptional game from Billy to get the chockies against Seymour. But for me, it'll be Seymour pretty handily, John.
Yeah, look, I'll go Seymour, and just one special mention to Seymour, young Hugh Robertson. I reckon this kid's having an absolutely cracking year. They had him at centre forward, they're throwing him back to centre back. He can play anywhere now, and he's a good size.
Utility.
And it's great to see him in the interleague game, and I hope this kid gets a game because I reckon he'll show his worth in interleague football, Foxy.
Good on you, Hugh. Well, we hope you enjoyed the show. We've covered a fair bit tonight. We had our Cheerios, we had Morse Mailbag, we had Martin in to tell us what's going on in footy. We had John Ryan, Guy Morfitt, and yours truly, David Fox. And
all the best to Haig.
And all the best. Oh, by the way, before we go,
hang on.
We've got to say goodbye to our friend Haig. Haig's going in to have an operation next week. And when we call out to Haig, if we call out to Haig now, we say, Haig, you there? He'll say, yeah, I'm here. But tomorrow, when we call out to Haig, you can work out the operation for yourself. We'll say, g'day, Haig, you there? And he'll say, yeah, I'm here.
Have you had it done yet, Fox?
Born an entire, gonna die an entire, so don't worry about that. With me and Varlap ended up in a glass box because he got done. They're not touching the redhead. But it'll be just my luck if I come back
to send a skin diver for you and for Haig.
A foreskin diver. Hey, we're going to get in trouble for that till next week. See you later. Bye.